Everything's under control. Sorry, folks.
But do we think, guys, that the Fantasyland Theater is long for this world? I mean, to OG's point, I believe he called it an eyesore. Yeah, I have to agree. It's not the best looking thing. It was started as the Videopolis a long time ago. Put the tent structure up sometime in the '90s. Do you think we see this in 5 to 10 years?
I hope so, man. I hope so. Look, we enjoyed the Fantasy Fair, I believe it's called, Princess something over there on the hub, right next to the castle, right?
Right.
We saw that on Monday.
Royal Theater.
Fantastic show. Really good show. It's not an eyesore visually. It fits Fantasyland. It looks great. It was a fantastic, well-written show. Perfect. Very intimate. Had everything. Checked all the boxes. The problem with the Fantasyland Theater is it's just a complete and total eyesore. You have this vinyl and metal monstrosity in Fantasyland. That's like everything else in Fantasyland is like this wood and very warm European old school village, and then you got this metal and vinyl thing. It's hideous. It's absolutely hideous. I hope it's not long on this earth. I hope they get rid of it. You can build a really fantastic dark ride in that spot. Now, I know a lot of my entertainment people are going to be like, well, what about entertainment? I think what you can kind of replicate what's going on over at the Princess Fantasy Fair thing throughout Disneyland. Very small, intimate stage shows to kind of replace the loss of that Fantasy Fair. I mean, that Fantasyland Theater. I mean, that would be my approach. Get rid of Fantasyland Theater. It's way too big. Put a ride there. And then maybe put like 1 or 2 small stages in Disneyland and that kind of make up for the loss of the theater. I think that's the way to go. The vinyl tent and everything it's horrible. And you can even see it when you're watching the fireworks on Main Street behind the castle. It's hideous. Yeah. I don't know if it's worth keeping. Because I think you can have just as great entertainment in the park without it on a smaller scale, like you do with the Fantasy Fair thing, and it would be much more effective and without the big giant eyesore. What do you think, Casual? I mean, in terms of the Fantasyland Theater, do you want to see it stay? Do you want to see it go? Where are you at with that?
Well, I love the idea of the larger productions. Because it actually, to me, it helps instill love for theater into kids that normally wouldn't have a chance to go see a big Broadway style show. And the shows that they have there are just top notch. They really are well done. So I'd hate to see that aspect go, but I agree that it's oddly a small theater. When you look at the seating, it's not like a tremendous amphitheater or anything. It's actually pretty small. And to have, like you said, that eyesore for something like that, I don't know if it's worth it. But I would hate to lose, like I said, the bigger production type of shows, especially in the daytime, because Disney needs something like that since they're not doing the big parades and things like that. They're doing the cavalcades and stuff like that. I really like the big production shows. I'd hate to see those go.
Yeah, I like the bigger shows, obviously, but I mean, Hyperion just does them so much better. I would like to see an enclosed theater type structure, maybe not on the same scale as Hyperion, but maybe on the scale, like you said, Casual, of the Fantasyland Theater. I mean, if you can enclose that space, that'd be optimum. But I just, it's like they're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's like we don't necessarily want to invest in this theater, but we also don't want to take it away. And it's like, you got to make up your minds, guys. We need something in here. My idea
if they could monetize it.
Yeah,
exactly. That they can monetize it. Oh, there you go. And then now we can actually get bona fide theater production in there. Hey, I mean, I would invite that. I'd also invite a restaurant because I do think Disneyland especially needs a little bit more restaurant capacity. But it's weird. It's kind of like a time from a time bygone era, but it's like, it definitely does have some it provides some operational what is it benefits to Disneyland and to guests and so forth. By the way, you mentioned parades there, Casual. What do we think about Magic Happens? Do you think it's coming back? We think it's not. What are we thinking on this? I know it's kind of a a question that we just kind of sprung, but are we thinking it's coming back? I mean, does anybody have some love or attachment for that show, and anybody wanted to see it back, or what is your feeling on it?
I never got to see it live, so I don't really have much of an attachment, but I love the parades. Disney does parades better than just about anybody. The energy that they always have, the performers are top notch and give it their all, no matter how hot and crazy it is. I mean, like I said, I've never seen it live, but it seemed like an interesting parade at the very least. So I can't really say like, oh yes, I want it back so bad, but I would just love to have the parades happening again.
Yeah, I would agree with Casual in the sense that I love the daytime parades. I love parades in general. I was like, we saw the electrical parade a few weeks ago, and that was like, wow. I mean, just goosebumps. I mean, that whole thing was just incredible. I'm not a huge fan of Magic Happens, and the reason why, I mean, if it comes back, great, but the reason why I'm not a huge fan of this particular parade is just because I feel like they couldn't really pick a lane. Like the music is Todrick Hall, super hip, kind of edgy pop music. And then the floats are very like old school traditional Disney. And it was like they couldn't decide what they want to do, right? And it just doesn't feel right. Like if you're going to do a hip parade, look, I'm not against hip. At DCA, they had the Block Party Bash, which I was a huge fan of Block Party Bash. It was fun. It was hip and edgy, but they leaned into that. That was the lane that they chose, and they went with it, right? They just don't know what lane they want to be in with Magic Happens. You have the hip and edgy soundtrack with the traditional floats, and it just doesn't, in my opinion, it's jarring. It's very, very jarring. So I want a daytime parade. I think that Disney, though, can do better than Magic Happens. I really do.
So you're wanting Sleeping Beauty's dress. Pick a color.
Exactly. Pick a color, like just pick a lane and stick with it. If you want to do the whimsical traditional Disney parade, do that. If you want to do the Block Party Bash, hip, edgy, whatever, do that. But you got to pick one. You can't like ride the middle. It doesn't work. It does, and this one, Magic Happens, really rides that middle, and it doesn't really satisfy either side. That's the issue.
Yeah, it's speaking of shows that have had premieres and didn't last very long, that's got to be like the shortest running parade ever. like, right. I understand it. It happened to be complicated by factors outside of Disney's control, obviously, but it's just one of those kind of amazing things that this show. I mean, I remember out of all the D23 Expo announcements that everybody else got, the one thing that we got was this parade. They hyped the crap out of it, and we were actually excited to see it. And then all of it, I made it to Disneyland, before the shutdown, but also before that, I got a chance to see that parade. I think it was only a couple months before the shutdown. Was able to see Rise of Resistance for the first time, and it was like, okay, well, we'll be back in June and we'll see it. And unfortunately, that never happened. Hopefully, we can get some of these other productions back, especially the Hyperion. I think the Hyperion really provides a lot of the the price of admission to California Adventure. I think is bulked considerably by the Hyperion's inclusion, and I think it hurts the whole overall valuation of the park, to be quite frank. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see some parades come back, but overall, Disneyland Resort's been pretty consistently working towards getting back 100% operational, and it's good to see.
No, it is. It is. Now, what do you guys think? And this might be controversial because this is sort of like, this is kind of it's a pricier option. But it might be a better quality option. What if they were to get rid of, say, the Fantasyland Theater, right? But then Downtown Disney were to add a theater where they would do like Cirque du Soleil productions and real broad. You can bring Broadway on, Lion King on Broadway kind of style shows into that theater. So you're getting a much more quality experience, but now you're going to pay an entrance to get into that show. Would you guys be okay with that in terms of like, like a downtown Disney venue that's giving you like Broadway, this really quality stuff? Or do you prefer kind of like maybe lesser quality, but like free with admission in the park? What do you think about that, Casual? Would you be okay with that? Or is that,
I personally, I'd prefer in park.
Okay.
Go with a slightly lower quality, but keep it in the park. And mainly because I don't know what the demand would be in downtown Disney to have it to where it would be, financially viable. I mean, we saw, House of Blues get kicked out.
True.
So I don't know if the demand is there for something like that. I'd love to see, big shows like that as well. But if I'm putting on my Bob Chapek hat, I'd be like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah, and
just from a financial standpoint.
There's a lot of valuable real estate in downtown Disney as
Right.
well, and it's all kind of at a premium. From what I understand, they're having problems packing out the Cirque du Soleil show in Walt Disney World at this current moment. From what I understand, they're having some attendance problems and so forth. So I don't know if the market's quite there. It'd be interesting to see, obviously. But I think I agree with Casual. I think the in-park shows, maybe a little bit lesser quality, I think is better. And honestly, like the Hyperion productions, they're pretty high quality. Like they're pretty, they're impressive. I just, sustainability wise, I just don't see it. As we've seen with Fantasmic and so forth, I think the monetization of the shows is definitely a thing that's coming. Yeah. And I think that's the direction that they kind of want to go in.
In Sector 2. Malfunction in Sector 2. All droids will be shut down for reloading of labor programs. Stand by for power disconnect.